I want to bring in Chris Grollnek. He's an active shooter expert with more than 30 years of experience. Chris, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Chris, in a situation like this, where do you start?
Well, these are dynamic situations, and, our hearts and minds and our hopes and prayers go out to the families of all the victims and actually everyone involved. And when these break off, they usually happen from 0 to 8 minutes. And it takes an officer about 8 minutes to show up. So a well-coordinated prevention plan on the front side is what's paramount. And I'm not happy about anything of these situations, obviously. However, I've commented and worked many of them in my past. And continue to do so. That said, the Department of Defense has a great, especially the Army, has a great prevention first policy. And I can't imagine what would happen without what they have in place. How gruesome it would have been forward. But this shooter was on the loose. I believe it was 39 minutes before he was apprehended. So imagine this event happened from 0 to 8 minutes, as most do from a historical look back. And everyone was on their own before police even arrived 8 minutes later. And that's with a pretty good prevention plan. So where do you start? You start by notification of the public, making sure people know what to do and locking them down, a good communication plan, and then following a really good process and procedure and not relying so heavy on products and services. And sadly, this active shooter industry, I've been in it one of the longest. I have a postgraduate degree in the phenomena of active shooters, and I was in an active shooter in real time. So I speak from experience. Not one are the same, first. And second, everything you think you know probably is not what you know when these things happen. So we have to make this very intuitive so we don't end up with more victims. And the 5 today are incredible.
So, Chris, even in this situation, you walk in with experience, but you don't walk in saying you understand it all. You're still looking to learn.
Oh, there's no doubt. We can't correct the future without looking at the past, right? So part of the dissertation that I wrote was from 1999 to 2012. Well, that research continues. And I can tell you from a historical look back of 26 years, we're not exactly getting faster. We're maintaining 0 to 8 minutes. And there's a national standard for police, all law enforcement, federal, even the DOD, about response. And that's really important. When police are capable of getting there, if they can, they will stop the shooter. And some people just aren't mentally or physically capable of doing that. So we rely on the nation to understand something called run, hide, fight. And I'm sure most of your viewers and listeners are familiar with that. However, that's not always, none of those are good options in this types of situation. So we're really looking left of that, right, before the bang even happens, and learn how to prevent these so they don't have to start, and we don't have to be on camera discussing how we could have better protected X, Y, Z. And I would tell your listeners and viewers, imagine having to be on your own 0 to 8 minutes. Are you prepared to confront that situation? And usually the answer is no, and there's nothing wrong with that. There are some that are, but the majority are not. And I know I wouldn't want my family to have to deal with that. So we owe it to the public to really work on that before the 8 minutes happen. And for the shooter to be on the loose 39 minutes, we need to overly compensate to correct that dynamic, because I don't think anybody would want to know that there's a shooter out for 39 minutes. That would be 39 minutes of a lifetime waiting to know that you're going to be safe.
Chris, one of the things we heard another security expert speak to us about is that the next steps in this situation will be to learn more about the shooter. In your experience, when something like this happens, is there one thing that tends to stand out to you?
Oh, absolutely. And the FBI would validate this. It's called leakage, and it used to be 75%, and that was the last 5 years. And then it went up to 90%. What leakage means is before a would-be evildoer acts or acts out, they have characteristics or traits that they may exhibit that public may notice, but they don't know who to tell, or we don't act on them. And the only thing I can tell your viewers and listeners right now, if somebody tells you they're going to do something, the number one rule is to believe them. Report it to the appropriate authority, even if it's as simple as calling 911. And let them know. But leakage is when the shooter or evildoer, before they commit the act, and I'm talking about vehicle assaults, knife attacks, gasoline attacks, fire, arson as a weapon, or even the worst active shooter or, improvised homemade explosives, which I say all of those because since January of this year, we've had every one of those at least twice in this country and well beyond the country. And I'll tell you this, every one of those people released some type of either A, manifesto, or B, outburst on a social media platform, and it was not addressed appropriately. And then the act happened, and then we all act shocked as if something was new and, how did we miss this? And the answer is we're just not addressing this holistically. We need a national standard for prevention for the rest of us, right? I'm no longer a police officer. I'm no longer in the military. I'm long retired. However, if we know that there's tools and things out there that we can use to expedite response and keep our families safer, we owe it to them to do more, bigger, better, and faster, actually.
Leakage. Chris Grollnek, thank you so much for that. I have not heard that term before. I completely understand it, and I guess the lift is on all of us to do more and be more aware. Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate your time, and thank you very much. And our thoughts and prayers are with everybody. So
absolutely. We continue to follow breaking news out of Fort Stewart, Georgia, where we know that 5 soldiers have been shot. President Trump has been briefed on the situation. Law enforcement officials tell us that the shooter is in custody and that the area around Fort Stewart has been cleared and is no longer on lockdown. We will continue to follow this story as it develops, and we'll have more after the break.